you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Murphy. My co-host, my teammate, Pierre McGuire, is not with me today. As we speak, he is starting up the first semifinal game in the ECAC Championships up in Lake Placid, New York. Quinnipiac's in that game, by the way. There's so many games going on right now. You've got St. Lawrence and Quinnipiac right now will be starting up. Pierre is doing the color for that game on ESPN Plus. So highly suggest once you're done here, or do it both like I'm doing right now, watching UMass BC and hosting this show. Check out Pierre there on ESPN Plus. There's going to be some great hockey there at the ECACs. He'll also do Dartmouth Cornell at 7:30. And of course, the game I just referenced right now, going on about 20 minutes away from me right now at TD Garden in Boston, the number one team in the nation, in the United States, in college hockey, Division I men's college hockey, the Boston College Eagles, hosting my alma mater, the University of Massachusetts in Amherst Minutemen, in the first semifinal game of the Hockey East. And then at 7:30 tonight, you can get BU, Boston University, with Macklin Celebrini, the expected top pick overall in the 2024 draft. And the Terriers going up against UMaine in the second semifinal game. Great day of college hockey going on right now. You've also got the NCIC going on. You've got University of Nebraska Omaha just starting up against North Dakota. And you also can get St. Cloud in Denver at 8:37 Eastern. Great day of college hockey. And look, I don't get any money for what I'm about to say. I'm only saying this because I'm a hockey fan, and I know you are too. It is well worth subscribing to either or Hulu and ESPN Plus, because basically for the rest of the weekend and next week during the NCAA tournament will kick in hockey as well. In the men's tournament, you can get the women's tournament is starting up in Durham, New Hampshire this weekend. But you can get all of those games, every college hockey game, men's and women's, that is left in this season. It's an exciting time. It's great hockey to watch. If you're watching the men's, you're seeing a lot of guys that are already drafted, high-end draft picks. I mean, you look at BC now, Boston College, who's going up against my alma mater, UMass, and they're heavy favorites, but I'm still calling a UMass upset right now. You heard it here. UMass 3-2 in overtime over the Boston College Eagles, but they're going to have to do that against 14 NHL draft picks that are on the Boston College roster. And of course, you know, they got the likes of Cutter Gauthier, Jeff Leonard. They've got Gabe Perreault. Just the list goes on. They've got so many. Jacob Fowler, the Montreal Canadians goalie that Pierre hails all the time here on the Eye Test. I highly suggest go over there right now. If you're subscribed, click on and watch. This is going to be a good game, as will the second game here in the Hockey East. But it is on campus Friday, so I want to start off talking about college, but I also want to start looking, and we'll try and do this every day. And I want to compliment my good friend, Damian Echevetta, who works with the NHL, sends me a breakdown of the Eastern and Western Conference playoff races every day until the playoffs start. He'll do this. And it's a great breakdown. So I want my production crew to pull it up right now, and you can really get a detailed look of what the races are like, who the teams have to play going forward, when they play them, and just the strength of all this stuff. And the points are lined up there. I mean, you look at the bottom there, there's all your points. And you look at that wild card race right now. I mean, we'll say, like I said to Pierre yesterday, I'm going to count Washington still in there. I think the Islanders after last night, they're still in it. I mean, I shouldn't count them out. All right, let's do this. As we see at the cutoff point there, let's call it the Islanders for the cutoff point in the Eastern Conference wild card race. It's the Devils are done. I'm just going to say that right now. And of course, then the Sabres, Pittsburgh, Montreal, and Ottawa, they're done. All right. So let's just start with the Islanders there. And let's look at what they've got right now. You look at their schedule coming up. They still have, in the remainder of the season, they play versus the Jets. That will be tomorrow. The following day, they're again at home against the Devils. And then they have a couple days off. They play the Panthers, and then they play the Lightning, and these are all on the road, at Florida, at Tampa Bay, at Philly, then back home against Chicago, at Columbus, versus Nashville. And by the way, just in case you didn't notice too, all the teams in red are teams that are in the playoff hunt right now, that are still not mathematically eliminated. But again, I'm doing the cutoff with the Islanders there. And so they got Nashville at home against the Rangers, which, by the way, the Rangers have been a thorn in the side for the Islanders lately. 2 straight losses to them. I'm sure they'd like to get some revenge for those in that game there on April 9th. They're at home against Montreal. Then they play the Rangers again at Madison Square Garden on the 13th. Then they're at the Devils on the 15th, and they close out the season against the Penguins, who, for all intents and purposes, are already eliminated. Will probably definitely be officially mathematically eliminated by then. Look at the Washington Capitals. All right, so they're right there. They're still really in it. 75 points, trailing the Detroit Red Wings by 78. They got a huge game tonight in Washington against their old friend of Jenny Kuznetsov and the Carolina Hurricanes. And then March 24th, again, they're home against the Winnipeg Jets. And then they're home again. So they got a nice little home streak going here. 3 games at home in a row. They got one, they finish it off against the Detroit Red Wings. Then they're away against the Leafs. They come back home a week from tomorrow to play the Boston Bruins. And then they're away on the road against the Buffalo Sabres. And then they're at home against the Penguins. They see Carolina again on the road, at home against Ottawa, on the road against Detroit. That could be a mammoth game. That could be huge. I mean, that could decide things. You don't know what could be happening there, but I mean, you look at how neck and neck they are as we speak. That game, mark the date there. That will be April 9th at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. The Washington Capitals play the Detroit Red Wings. The 11th, they're at the Buffalo Sabres. Then they come home on the 13th versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then they're back home on the 15th against the Bruins. And they close their season out against the Philadelphia Flyers on April 16th. So those are the 2 teams right now that are still on the cusp of the wild card there that I think still have a chance. And that's a look at their schedule right now. Now, I found a site. I mentioned it the other day, guys. Check it out. And again, I got no ties to these guys, so a free plug for them. But it's called tankathon.com. And they do remaining schedule strength. So if you go there right now, you can see they rank it as who's got the toughest schedules going forward. Right now, actually, the team I cover, the Boston Bruins, is the toughest schedule. Then what they do is they show you their toughest opponents left and their easiest opponents left. And they also show you how many times they're going to play those teams down the stretch here in the stretch run of the season. And they'll show you the combined winning percentage of all their opponents that they have left on the schedule. So if you look right now, we were just talking about the Washington Capitals, and you're going there. They have the 4th toughest schedule left. 589 combined winning percentage of the teams they have left. And then it shows you the teams I just listed that they have playing. Now let's go down and find the New York Islanders, who this could be, this could play a huge role here. 17th toughest schedule. So quite a difference there between the Capitals and the New York Islanders, the 2 teams challenging Detroit for that final spot. The Islanders' combined winning percentage of their opponents left is .555. Now, the Detroit Red Wings, you look back up that list, the Detroit Red Wings do have a pretty tough schedule left. They're at 7. So they have the 7th toughest schedule left. They play the Rangers once, the Panthers once, the Hurricanes once, the Leafs once, the Predators once, and the Lightning once. And those are listed in their toughest opponents. As for their easiest opponents left, they play the Habs twice, the Sabres once, the Penguins once, and the Caps twice. Again, huge games there against the Caps. The combined winning percentage of all those teams that the Red Wings have left in their schedule is .575. So if we go back right now to the list we had there, pull it up again, please, guys, the standings list that we had there from Damien, and we'll look into now the second wild card spot there, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Well, the Lightning right now, in terms of strength of schedule left, out of all those 4 teams, Tampa Bay, Detroit, the Islanders, and Washington, the Lightning have the easiest schedule. Combined winning percentage, they have 13 games left. The combined winning percentage of the teams they have left on their schedule is .530. That is the 25th easiest or 25th hardest. So only, I'd say the seventh easiest schedule out of the 32 teams left right now. They play the Bruins once, the Leafs twice, the LA Kings once, the Anaheim Ducks once, the Columbus Blue Jackets once, the Ottawa Senators once, the Montreal Canadiens once, the Buffalo Sabres once, and the Pittsburgh Penguins once. So that's kind of the rundown there of how things could turn out in terms of the remaining schedule and strength of schedule for the wild card teams right now. So we're looking right now, guys. Throw your questions at me since I'm solo. I'll totally welcome them. As I said, you notice the background. My boys UMass are playing right now. Let's give it a look. I think BC is on the power play, actually. We'll check the score when they're done with the replay. 0-0. The UMass just killed off a power play. 14 minutes left in the hockey semifinal. But yeah, throw me some questions here if you want. I'll answer them. We're only going to go up to about 4:30 so I can get watching the UMass game here. So Marvin Matthews right here says, there's a consensus that the Bruins don't have a strong prospect pool. Who do you think are their best offensive and defensive prospects right now? It's a great point, Marvin, and that's not consensus. That's just fact. The cupboards are bare for the Boston Bruins, and frankly, that's probably the reason they were unable to obtain either Elias Lindholm and or Noah Hannafin prior to the deadline, or a player of that caliber, because not only is the prospect cupboards there, they're also void of a first, second, and third round pick in this year's draft. If you're an opposing GM that's, out of it and you're trading away some upcoming UFAs or guys you just aren't going to be able to fit in the cap, and you have a big name and a quality player, why are you listening to Don Sweeney, who doesn't have and UMass is up 1-0, 13:27 left in the first. I apologize for the distraction. So why are you going to go work with Don Sweeney? He's got nothing to offer. He doesn't have prospects. He doesn't have draft picks. And next year they have a first, but then they don't pick again to the 5th. So, when it comes to prospects and draft picks right now, Don Sweeney and the Boston Bruins are in a heap of trouble. And I wonder, and I'll get to your answer on who the best prospects are in a second, but I also wonder, he's got a ton of cap space coming up, okay? I wonder if he says when the season's over, because I'm telling you right now, Jake DeBrusk is not going to be locked up by the end of the season, okay? So he'll still own his rights up until July 1st, right? I'm wondering if even if it's a third-round pick, just for a team to acquire the rights to work a deal out before July 1st with Jake DeBrusk, I wonder if Don Sweeney does that. He's going to have to get creative and do things like that to start to rebuild the war chest of picks and prospects. So as for prospects that they do have in the system and who's their best and who's their worst, I'll start on the back end. Their best is clearly Mason Lohrei. He's spent a lot of time this year. He's up right now. He's been up and down. He's had 3 stints in the NHL. He's currently up. He's really, I think, every time that he's gone down to Providence and then come back up to Boston, he's gotten better. And that's a great thing to see if you're the Bruins management team and you're the coaching staff, because the kid isn't taking it personally when he gets sent down. He's not sulking and saying, woe is me. He's going down there. He's learning from the coaches there. He's toughing it out. He's sucking it up. And he's then coming back and applying that at the NHL level. So I think that's a great sign for the Bruins. I think Mason Lohrei has the capability, okay, because they're going to lose Matt Grzelcyk to free agency. There's another guy that you could trade and maybe get a 5th-round pick for the rights to in the offseason. So he's gone. Grzelcyk's been on the top pairing most of the season. When he's healthy, he's up there with Charlie McAvoy. So a pairing is open. A left side is opening up in the top 4. You got McAvoy on the right. You got Brandon Carlo on the right. Hampus Lindholm usually plays with Brandon Carlo in that second period on the left. So there's that slot. Now, do I think Mason Lohrei goes into that top slot on the left side next year? I think that's asking a bit too much for his age. He's 24. But I do think he cracks the top 4. Maybe they just slide Lindholm one up. And what a pairing that would be for your top pairing if you're the Boston Bruins. You've got Charlie McAvoy on the right and Hampus Lindholm on the left. So that would be their top defensive prospect. I would say offensive-wise, currently as we speak, okay, I'm not saying overall in terms of grand potential and going forward. As we currently speak, their best offensive prospect is a guy by the name of Georgi Merkulov. He was a college free agent signing by the Bruins last spring, and he's really come in and he's ripped it up. I haven't checked the standings, the stats lately, but he's been in the top 5 to 7 in scoring in the AHL. He got a couple looks up. He got one look, actually, a couple games up here, but he's just been helping Providence so much, and he didn't exactly look ready for the NHL level and the rigors of it, the physicality of it, even though he's a big kid. Needs a little more seasoning down in AHL. So he's got a ton of potential. But if we're talking the overall picture, I think it goes to Matthew Poitras, who was with the Bruins until he was hurt and they shelved him for his back injury and said, look, you're better off getting surgery, deal with it, be ready for next training camp. He's their best guy. Now, I'll tell you this, and I know this for a fact, that in talks with the Calgary Flames, whether it was earlier for Elias Lindholm back in February or it was for Noah Hannafin leading into the deadline this month, that was a guy the Calgary Flames wanted, and the Boston Bruins said no. So that shows you how much they value him. And obviously, too, as I started this whole answer off, and sorry it's so long-winded, but obviously, too, they don't have many other guys like him. So they can't afford, even if it was going to bring in a Hannafin, they can't afford to potentially bring in a rental. Remember, Hannafin's going to be a UFA. They couldn't afford to let a guy like Poitras go. So they kept him, and I think it was the right move. I think he's eventually, when all is said and done, he's a really solid 3C that can go up to 2C when you really need it if there's an injury. But I think his perfect slot would be 3C. I think he got a lot better defensively as the game went on. So he's starting to learn the 200-foot game as a center. And oh, bleep, BC tied the game. 11:58 left in the first. But that's where you are with the prospects and the draft pick situation with the Boston Bruins. All right, what else do we have? Hey, Jason Logan, my good friend from Montreal. What's up, Jay? Jay says, did you see the stat of Auston Matthews and Ovi in their first 547 games? Ovi has 337 and Matthews 354. Do you think he can catch Ovi if he breaks Wayne's record? Well, here's my bold production, and I know he's been on fire lately. And credit, Ovi has had a tough year. He's battled through. He's accepted a lesser role on the team. You know what really struck me? I think it was a couple games back, and I'm pretty sure, I forget who they were playing. And I don't watch the Caps every day, but I read up. I stay on top of it because I have to for my job. But I was watching it closely. He doesn't start in the starting lineup anymore. 90% of the time, Alexander Ovechkin is not starting the starting lineup. That game I was watching, he was on the third line. Think about that, okay? This is a surefire Hall of Famer chasing Wayne Gretzky, and he's accepting the role that his new coach gave him for the good of the team so they can stay in a playoff hunt. So I want to give him a lot of credit before I say what I'm going to say. And what I'm going to say right now is I think when all is said and done, Auston Matthews catches Wayne Gretzky, and Pierre's going to knock me for this. He's going to call me crazy. But Auston Matthews is the one to catch Wayne Gretzky when all's said and done. Ovi doesn't do it. I think Ovi's going to run out of time. I think his game is faded. I think, it's the rigors of the NHL catch up to you at a certain age. I know at my age, or even at his age now, I wouldn't have been able to do that. It's catching up to him. And I really don't think that he's going to do it. And I think that he understands, as the Capitals have kind of indicated with what I just told you about where they're slotting him up and down the lineup, I think he understands that that's not the main objective of the Washington Capitals, is to get him to break that record. It would be great. It would make a lot of money for the team. They would love the marketing it brings, the spotlight it brings, the national games it will bring that the Capitals will be broadcasted on. And they'll continue to get that as he tries to get there. But the Caps have made it clear they're looking to the future. And, sadly, because of his age, he's not part of that future. They prioritize the team over him, which I think is the right move. And again, I commend him for accepting that. All right, next question. Justin LeBron, if you had to pick a Stanley Cup winner today, who would it be? Wow. That's a tough question, Justin. You're going to put me on the spot. I'm not even going to look at the standings that I just pulled up before. I'm just going to say it off the top of my head. Just randomly, I think it's going to be the team I saw last night here in Boston, the New York Rangers. I picked them in the beginning of the year. I picked the Rangers over the Colorado Avalanche. I'm going to stick with that pick. So give me the Rangers over the Avs in the Stanley Cup final. I do reserve the right to change that down the stretch here. And I also want to say that I'm really starting to become a believer of the Nashville Predators. And Pierre and I have discussed it. If not next week, then the following week, we are going to get somebody from the Nashville organization on. Pierre's pretty tight with Barry Trotz. So we're hoping to get Barry on, the general manager of the Nashville Predators and their original coach. So hopefully we'll get somebody on from Nashville to really give them the props that they deserve right now. I really think they could become the Florida Panthers of last year and make a nice Cinderella run to the Stanley Cup final. We'll see what happens. All right, next question. Justin LeBron, how many years do you think the Habs are for making the playoffs? 1. I think they make the playoffs next year. I think they're going to make some noise in the offseason via trade and free agency. I think they make it in as a 7th or 8th seed next year. Next question. 87 Eagles. The Snake from BPM Sports said he'd trade Hudson now. Would you? Who's the Snake? I guess you guys can tell me when we get off air. No idea. So I'm not knocking him. Like, I don't know him well enough to knock him. That's his opinion. But I will say I wholeheartedly disagree with that opinion. I think that that would be going backwards. I think Lane Hudson, who will be in action later tonight with Macklin Celebrini, with another prospect, Tuck, of course, for the Montreal Canadiens playing UMaine. I want the Snake, if you can get this message to him, I want the Snake to watch every single game that BC plays from here on out until they're eliminated from the NCAA tournament. Okay, now if they get knocked out tonight from the Hockey East or they lose in the final tomorrow, that their season's not over because they're going to be like a 2, maybe even a 1 seed in the NCAA. So they'll go on. My school, however, needs to win this to get in because they need to win the whole tournament or they're not making it to the NCAAs. That's UMass, of course. But no, watch Lane Hudson. I want people, before they start commenting on these guys, these prospects, and Pierre taught me this, and I'm glad he did at a younger age, don't comment on guys. Don't make bold statements on players unless you've watched them play. How can you do that? I mean, I can sit here and tell you that guy's wrong, saying that all I want, but I think until you guys out there watch Lane Hudson, you can't really formulate a valid opinion of your own. So I urge you, go watch him. And I'm telling you, now, obviously in the NHL, the defensive game is going to be a lot tougher. The guys are bigger. The game's faster. So I'm not saying that everything you see him do in this Hockey East tournament or in the NCAAs, when you watch him, he's going to be able to accomplish right away in the NHL. I think he eventually can as he gets used to it. But this kid is going to be a power play factory. He is like the power play is going to just, even if that's all he can do next year, he will help the Canadians. I'm going to say just by his power play capability, help them get at least another 4 to 6 points in the standings. How's that? That's how good I think he is. And I'm sure Pierre would back me up on that. Next question. We got any? I think we're good. No more right now. All right. So currently 8:37 left in the first semifinal game of UMass and Boston College. And my Minutemen are tied 1-1. Hey, I'll take that. You get me to the third period tied, anything can happen for the University of Massachusetts. Back to the standings. Before we close it out, I just want to look if you guys can pull it up. I don't know, guys, if you can do it on the screen there. Yes. Okay, you got it. The Western Conference. Thank you. So let's look at the wild card there. And by the way, Detroit. Before we move on to the West, don't pull up the East again, but I meant to say Dylan Larkin last night. You guys watch this show. Pierre has been saying nonstop, there's one thing that's making the Red Wings slump and fall apart right now, and it's the absence of Dylan Larkin. So what happens last night in what the play-by-play man that we had here on this show a couple weeks back, Ken Daniels, said on the eye test, he said how much Dylan Larkin means. And then yesterday I heard him on our good friend Jeff Merritt's show say last night's game against the Islanders was the biggest game for the Red Wings in Little Caesar Arena's history. And I totally agree. They've not made the playoffs since that building went up. That game depended on it. That was a huge game. And Dylan Larkin comes out and gets 2 goals and they beat the Isles 6-3. He should, in my opinion, I'm going to say top 7 to 10. He should be in the Hart Trophy consideration in terms when I vote. I'll have him somewhere in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range. That's how much he's meant to the Red Wings. All right, let's look at this Western Conference right now, guys. See, I look at this more set. Even though St. Louis and Minnesota are still right there, Minnesota was 76 points. St. Louis was 77. They're trailing the Vegas Golden Knights by 4 points. Vegas has 81. I think Vegas is going to get it together. They're just too good not to, and I really think they pull away. So while I'm just going to look at this schedule quickly with you for the Wild and the Blues, it could become a moot point by this time next week. Let's put it that way. I really think that could happen. I think the West is going to be solidified before the East. But let's look at Minnesota's schedule remaining right now. They've got the Blues at home. They've got the Sharks at home. They've got the Vegas Golden Knights. That could be a huge one. Maybe that's the game where Vegas puts the dagger in Minnesota's season. We'll see. They've got the Ottawa Senators. So a huge stretch here, home games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6-game home stand they're about to go on right now. They've got the Colorado Avalanche in that one, and then the Winnipeg Jets. Those are going to be tough games. And then they're on the road against Chicago, at Colorado, at Vegas. So they have to play Vegas and Colorado twice still. That's tough. You just hope maybe by the second time they roll around and they're playing at Vegas on the 13th and at Colorado on the 9th and at Vegas on the 13th. You hope maybe Colorado and Vegas have solidified their spots a bit by then, so the game won't mean as much. And if Minnesota's still in it, they can kind of sneak up on them because it doesn't mean as much for the opponent. We'll see. But they play at San Jose after that Vegas game on the 11th, at the Kings, and then home against the Kraken on the 18th to close the season. The St. Louis Blues are at Minnesota tomorrow, then at St. Louis, at Nashville. That's huge. They then go, they're at Vegas, versus Calgary, versus San Jose, versus the Oilers at home, at Nashville, at San Jose, at Anaheim, versus the Blackhawks, versus Carolina, versus Seattle, and then at Dallas. So that's a pretty tough schedule as well. They've got some cupcakes in there, but by the time they reach San Jose is on the 30th. I mean, they could be out of it by March 30th when that rolls around. That's a week from tonight. They could be, or a week from tomorrow. They could be out of it. So, like I said, I just don't think St. Louis or Minnesota makes it in. I think Vegas is the cutoff there. I even think that Vegas could essentially catch the Kings, which would slide them then into the 3rd slot in the Pacific. So they won't have to play out of the wild card, but it doesn't do them any favors because they're likely playing the Edmonton Oilers. So it's like, okay, do I want to play, if you're Vegas, do you want to play the Winnipeg Jets? Do you want to play the Colorado Avalanche? Do I want to play the Vancouver Canucks? It's kind of going to be tough no matter what happens for Vegas, but I do think they solidify a spot pretty soon there in the playoffs. I don't think we have any more questions left. So if you guys are set with your questions, I'm going to call it a day here because I want to watch this game here. UMass and Boston College, and then, of course, BU and Maine. I want to get to watching that. I'm going to watch a little Pierre as well. Again, I highly urge you guys, go sign up for ESPN Plus. You get every game. I think it's something like $12.99 a month. You can't beat that. I mean, I think back to the days. I don't know about my friends in Canada there, but when we wanted to do the you get all the NHL games too. And when I wanted to do center ice package as recently as like 5 years ago here in the States, you were paying $185 up front, or it was like $30 a month. They had just ridiculous prices. Now you get it for $12.99, except the games in your area that are blacked out. But most likely you got that on your local network. So who cares? So I think it's a great deal. Go check it out. Enjoy the hockey this weekend. We will talk to you on Monday. Pierre will be back, and we've got a great guest. The Deputy Commissioner of the NHL, Bill Daly, will join Pierre McGuire and I here on Monday on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Have a great weekend.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.